So I just want to open up the circle by saying that I'm hoping that our discussion today is going to be a place that we feel comfortable in having this discussion, and with the wonderful work that you all are doing in the community and tying that and building that bridge and laying that foundation for tomorrow to say, you know, this is why it connects to everything that we do. It connects to who we are. It connects to us being a community. People are enticed by coming to make a Cedar Heart and having Bannock, but I really want for you all to lay those nuggets in people about why, you know, the environment and trees and reconciliation are all tied together. And, you know, the fact that we're doing art too, right? That all of these pieces are tied together, that that means a lot, that you're all committed to being here and really opening up these doors, and for BC Culture Days to be able to see the value in that as well, because they've been so supportive in wanting to do this. And they've given like extra one-on-one support in me working with Leonard and learning how to do the cedar weaving and doing it in a good way, because harvesting the cedar for this takes a lot of time, and it takes, you know, a lot of resources that we wouldn't normally do for this, because it almost feels very commercialized in that way. So we're trying to do it in a good way. It means a lot to have you folks here supporting, because it gets very lonely doing this work, and it gets very hard to do it, and you feel like it's hard to feel heard, I guess. So yeah, I wanted to start off on a lighter note, but I just feel so teary. Just know that, yeah, so thank you.
I've had the joy of working with Priscilla on a few projects now, or supporting projects that she's done in our community, which has been really amazing. Always been a firm believer that you can solve everything over a table with breaking bread and having a cup of tea, and that always happened in my house. You know, they solved all the world problems at the kitchen table. So I'm excited to see how that happens here with the community tomorrow.
I had opened up a preschool, and I was working with the children. I always wanted to get them in touch with nature. That was so important for me. Science was one of the biggest things, and art, but I guess through the years too, learn, you know, different spiritualities. I was discovering in the indigenous spiritual way, and I love that because it was so sacred to nature, and that meant a lot to me.
For me, ever since I was a young child, a fascination and appreciation of the natural world and all things in it has been first and foremost for me. Being a member of the Wondrous Tree Fellowship and all things natural is really rewarding for me. And I think, you know, the way things are going in the world with climate change and all the issues and problems we're having, you know, I think if we can look at nature and trees and forests in a different way as being, well, the one thing we're missing, I think, in our culture here, indigenous cultures, I think, are a little ahead of us in this way, but looking at nature as sacred places and finding that sacredness within nature. And I think it's something that's missing, and that we're hopefully going to find again, reconnect with. And so I'm hoping this will be one more step towards that.
I hear a lot of conversations around nature and coming together. My experience with nature, I've always had a love and fondness, particularly for animals, but recently I've become a lot more interested in just the more personal experience of nature, and up close, and how plants interact, you know, learning about invasive species and native species.
I'm hoping that some of the information that you'll share as well will somehow connect either to reconciliation or connect to some of the work that you're doing in really getting the message across, because BC Culture Days, where this particular session is around earth endeavors. And so when I had proposed to them what it is I wanted to do, it was really around the sustainability, Earth Endeavors being connected to environmentalism, environment and arts specifically. So exactly what you're talking about, talking about really getting the message across that, what we're consuming really contributes to, climate change, and how we could use the art as an expressive way of being a voice for the environment. And, I cannot tie that to cedar weaving specifically because as an Indigenous person, as some of you have said, it's in who I am as a person to be connected to the earth, and that we think 7 generations ahead, and that we're aware of climate change in a way that has been ingrained into us from children as to you walk lightly on this earth. You only take what's needed, and if you have more, then you share the rest. Right? So we have people who go salmon fishing and then they will give the rest to community. We host potlatches for a reason, in that sharing, in that giving. So seasonally we'll be able to be more sustainable when winter comes. So there's ways in our way of being that I would like to get across with the messaging tomorrow. As I'm sharing with people the cedar weaving, it's not just this is how you weave, it's going to be weaving in these stories that people will better understand that when we harvest with the cedar, we're only taking as much as we need. We're not taking from very old trees or very young trees, that there's a time of year that we do it, and that we use all of what we take, whether it be for regalia, for ceremony, it be for clothing, it be for baskets, for us to use for food, for ceremony, and so everything that we take, we're taking it for a specific reason, and we're not letting anything go to waste, right? And so I'm hoping that people will get that message across, that this is in Indigenous pedagogy, but as well there are ways that they could do this in community, even if they're not Indigenous, right? And connecting that to trees, to being in nature, to art, to express themselves. And so that's kind of my goal for them, what they get out of tomorrow, how you relay your message each individually as community partners is definitely in your voice. Like I'm not gonna, like that's the only part of the messaging I'm hoping that they walk away with, and that we want to put that structure back out into nature somewhere. So hopefully a hiking trail or something that people can go and visit and watch it, and watch how it goes back to the earth, and hopefully have people see that it's possible, it's possible to do this, and that will hopefully make them think and make them visit it. Like I'm really hoping that people will, I've had some people who can't come tomorrow say that they want to visit it when I've told them that's what we're doing with it. So that's really exciting. Yeah.
It'd be nice that it's like just slightly off of a trail or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that someplace where it going back to nature, I agree, is part of the process.
We go into some trees somewhere, like a path where people will walk, but a little off of it, so people are actually getting off that beaten path. Like that feeling, I that would be a nice physical, I think, feeling for them to get, to just not be where people are, like you're saying, but actually be where animals are, be mindful of where, like, that would be, I think, beautiful. We want the people who are coming tomorrow to take something with them by making the heart, but we also want people who aren't there tomorrow to be a part of that conversation, right? And
it also gets people in nature too,
mm-hmm.
if they go looking for it.
Yeah.
And I think another significant piece to that is that you'll have people here contributing to that art piece. So it's not just an art, it's the community that built that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people have kind of bought into that already and are supportive, and it brings people together on so many different levels.
Really like the education piece too. If there's some way that we could add like a QR code or something to the space, so that it takes people to further information.
Mm-hmm.
I really like,
More links.
more links.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a link to all of the associations, all of the groups that take part in building this and in this community event, as well as to information of reconciliation,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little bit about the reflection garden and its history. Like it could be a little bit of everything that really, draws our community together again. Just kind of brings in those pieces a little bit more.
I am happy with that messaging. I'm comfortable with it. I just want to make sure that all community partners are as well comfortable with being a part of that message as being a part of tomorrow's event. Some of you recall the 6-piece series that I did on the murder and missing Indigenous women, the art pieces. They were in Western Sky Books. Some of you may not have seen them, but the 6-piece series was about the murdering and missing Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirited, also about the Red Dress campaign that brings awareness, but it was also tied to these different messages around rematriate, aunties, never forgotten, land back, water is life, and justice. And so the reason why I chose those is to talk about how they all intersect with each other and how that is reconciliation. And I think a part of what we're doing is land back. And so I think what people don't understand is land back isn't just like physically giving land back. Land back is going to understand the Indigenous ways of being and not this overconsumption that I think that people are so focused on what's easy to make my life good, what's pretty to look at, but not what's functional and what's going to take care of the next 7 generations. So I think of Agutu, I think of Agutu's children and Agutu's grandchildren, and then that's what reconciliation is. That's what environment means to me, right? It's who I am and what I was raised with and how we do things, right? So that's kind of what I'm hoping people will take away from tomorrow as well, is that you are all here because you're doing that work that is like family, because that means so much. Like that's who I am. So when people ask, what's your tie to the environment? I'm like, I am the environment. The environment is part of me. Like it's not just work I do. It's not just,
That we're all interconnected, that all of our groups are interconnected, the way that we think.
Mm-hmm.
Some common ground.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I guess with that, hopefully we're all energized to build this structure with this message in mind and hopefully get people excited tomorrow. I say thank you to Carla for having this gift of being able to do this.
And I will be honest with you all, this is not something that comes with plans. It's not like a Lego set, that's for sure. It's I do have a palette that we can use, or we can just use natural branches that we have and twine, things that are all biodegradable. We don't want to use any plastics or anything like that. So what I've done is I've been gathering not just branches but grasses from a couple of different sites that I work on from my own garden as I'm cleaning up and getting ready for fall. I let a lot of stuff in my garden just die back naturally over the year, because it just adds to the soil and just builds it. But I've just been kind of pulling out little bits and pieces here and there and really trying to use things that were already on the ground, not having to cut anything or take anything off of a tree, and just trying to be really respectful of only taking a little bit of everything, and anything that doesn't get used will go home and get used in another project or more fodder in the garden, whichever. And I really want this to be a collaborative piece. So please use your voices, speak up. There's no plan. We're going to make the plan and see what works as a team, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's fun.
Trust the process.